Welcome, everybody, to our OneDoor Studios update. Yes, it's been a while. It's been a long while since you've seen our faces on a video, and there's some good reasons for that. And we also have some really great updates for you today. So the reason why you haven't seen our faces on video in a while is everybody knows that I'm the editor of these videos. And for the past several months, maybe you guys know, maybe you don't know that OneDoor Studios is owned by a bunch of guys who have other companies as well. And about a year ago, we mentioned that we were preserving the funds of the company by continuing to take on our work in our companies so we can keep the money in the bank for OneDoor Studios for the calculated projects. And so I took on a directing role in a documentary on fentanyl that's going to be distributed by Warner Brothers. And so that's where I've been 12 to 15 hours a day, including OneDoor Studios meetings for the last 4 or 5 months. And so I just want to let you guys know that streaming in January is going to be a documentary called Fentanyl, Death Incorporated, distributed by Warner Brothers, probably on the major streaming platforms. And anybody want to see the trailer of that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so let's roll the trailer of that real quick, and then we'll come back here.
This is fentanyl. This is your brain on fentanyl. This is your friend's brain who was doing fentanyl with you. This is the guy down the street also doing fentanyl. These are your kids who thought they were taking a Percocet they got from a friend who got it off the internet, but the pill was laced with fentanyl, and now they're unconscious and unresponsive. This is the Mexican cartels. This is the Mexican cartels working with Chinese chemical companies to make pills by the millions, destabilizing the border to traffic enough fentanyl to kill the entire population of a country many times over. This is the ports of British Columbia, where chemicals to make fentanyl are smuggled in by the tonnage, and Canadian super labs are producing fentanyl to export to countries around the world. These are gangs and drug dealers near you, haphazardly mixing fentanyl powder with other chemicals like xylazine, which is a horse tranquilizer, causing the user's skin to fall off. Any questions?
I have a question. What is a super lab?
I want to know, why are we seeing these record overdose deaths just in America?
Why is this happening here? Our local hospital rooms are blowing up. Why?
Because they're killing our children. And how do we change that?
Hop in the fence, broad daylight.
How much of this deadly poison is coming across the border?
How come all these people are all passed out?
Where is all of this stuff coming from?
Is China purposely addicting our nation?
How can parents protect their children from fentanyl? That's a tough question.
Okay, well, there you have it, guys. Fentanyl Death.
Whoa. Dang, man. I want to watch it.
Was that really worth your time, Stephen? Yes,
Yeah,
it
I'm trying to
was.
save lives. I mean, there is 100,000 people in America dying every year from fentanyl, and it's not just drug addicts; it's everybody. More people have died from fentanyl in the last 5 years than U.S. combat deaths in every war since 1939. So, trying to stop that. So that's the project I've been working on for the past few months. But I'm back. I'm a free bird now. It's out the door, and back full time with OneDoor Studios. Back to doing these video updates for you guys. So we want to get to what's going on. It's been going on for the last maybe 8 weeks or so. John, I want to start with you because you just got done with American. What is it called, John? AFC.
American Film Convention.
American Film Convention.
Yep.
Not to be confused with AFE, America's Funniest Home Videos.
Or AFM, the American
AFM,
Film.
yeah, American Film Market. So talk to us a little bit about the AFC, and then also kind of one of our new partners in this, Vivian.
Vivian Yin, yeah. So it was an amazing event, 3 days, happened last week. So primarily producers in my group, we had 80 to 100. I think we had 80 seats. So there were people standing around because they didn't have a seat, which was great, but it was packed. And a good place for us to be, very good recognition and that kind of thing. There were distributors and others that were there, but in this masterclass, it was primarily focused on producers. And it was the 7 principles and practices of the most successful independent producers.
So, so you went there with Vivian. What's her last name? Yin.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about her. Tell our investors about her.
She She ran one of the most prominent operations media companies in China, and one of the biggest media influencers in China as well. Fremantle Media, which is a company out of London, really strong internationally, including the US. And she brought in The Voice and other major programs, some of them originating in China. Um, the big the big company that is state owned is China Star Media, and she was CEO of that company. And that is kind of the premier company in China. It's like
I'm not sure why China is important to calculate it. I mean, I'm a little confused by that, you know.
yes. So apparently you haven't read the books. Is that
Oh, yeah, it's been a bit.
yeah. So it is very, very akin to that. We got word she was coming. She actually is close friends with Jason, who unfortunately is not in this update, but knows us all. We've met with her in China as well as the US, but she was coming to the US. She is she's setting up shop in the US, which is a real powerful move. So she's had people she's had meetings with, and we set up meetings with her. In fact, she was on a panel at AFC as well. I spoke on Tuesday. She was on a panel on Wednesday, and that was really well attended. And yeah, she's a powerhouse, and
Oh,
she loves calculated, and will assist us in all the orientation we need
yeah,
relative to shooting there
yeah,
and selling there.
yeah.
Nice picture.
Well, to not to say something completely off topic, but I used to be an insurance salesman many, many years ago. Now you're probably wondering where the heck is Steve going with that? Um, and the motto of like the office leaders was every no is one step closer to a yes, which was really annoying to hear all the time because I hated selling insurance. But I say that because uh, Calculated and Wonder Studios has gotten a number of no's. Uh, at the same time, we've gotten a number of really high profile people exceedingly interested in Calculated. And so I want to give it to Paul because I think the last update we gave, we had a no from a really big distributor, potential production partner, and we had another no after that from a smaller one. But there's been so much happening; it's really nuanced, and I wanted Paul to kind of share that a little bit. And by the way, John, thanks for sharing about AFC. Appreciate that.
Sure.
So go for it. Go for it, Paul.
Yeah. So, Stephen, I'm not sure if I'm getting fentanyl or insurance from you at this point.
Yeah.
Maybe both. Maybe I need
Yeah.
both. Yeah, I actually described it before this call. I described our technique as like a siege because we know the studio that we really want to be with. We think it's the perfect studio. And we got a soft no from them the first time around, but we keep getting new connections into that castle, if you will, if we're using that besiege mentality or motif. The most recent of which is so the CFO of that company has become a good friend through our little community in Malibu, and his own son read all the calculated books when he heard about calculated through his dad. He got excited. He's a reader, and he read the first one and immediately gobbled down the second and third novels. And so this CFO continues to not so much pressure, but invite his company, the studio that I mentioned is our number one choice, to take another look. When Vivian was in town from China, and as John said, she's looking to relocate here, I set up a meeting with her and the CFO of the company, and he brought in his head of international, which was really good because it was yet another way into the castle. Because our main discussion with Vivian is looking again at the potential for getting partial financing for the film from China. there's 3 or 4 perfect partners for us in China that could potentially provide 25-30% of our financing, and that makes it even more interesting to the studio here in the US because that takes some of the burden off of them. So we all got together, the CFO, his head of international, Vivian, and I, and we had a lunch down at this studio, and we had a great conversation. And I wish I could tell you what studio. I wish I could disclose all these names, but it's just not the right time to do that. But suffice to say that we are continuing to push. We are continuing our besiege.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, we have reached out to some co-production partners who would not only help us producing the film, financing the film, but also securing distribution through their partners. And we also got a soft no from one that I was super excited about. But they said, look, we love the concept. We love the world that you guys are creating. We'd like to see your next draft of the script. And so we're kind of retrenching, trying to figure out, do we do another polish of the script now? Do we keep shopping? Do we wait until we have a director? And on that front, the director front, we looked again at the list that we had created earlier about or containing the list of directors that were targets for us, and we're now beginning that process to reach out to them. So it's like the chicken or the egg. Do you get the director and then you get the studio? Do you get the studio and then get the director? Do you get the star before the director? It's this whole dance that we're doing. We wish it were faster, and it's just.
I might interrupt real quick, Paul. If I can interrupt real quick, when you mentioned like another draft of the script, some people are saying, "Wait a second, I thought you guys finalized the script." Well, we did. We did finalize the script to bring it to a point where we could take it to a potential production partner. And then, and each one reads it, I mean, some have read it and said, "This is amazing. We got to do, this is fantastic script." Others have said, "Yeah, it's lacking in this area." So do we spend the money, quite a bit of money, to polish what that person says if they're not going to be our production partner? Or do we get a director and then who can really sink his teeth into the project, and then he does the polish? So that's kind of the options we're weighing right now. Spend the money because it's very subjective. What one person thinks is done, the other person thinks is not done. So that's where we are on the script right now in relation to
one thing we know is the script is never done.
Right.
There's never everybody's going to be happy with the script. I was reading the whole story behind Gladiator, which we all know became Academy Award Best Picture, and the machinations that went on with that film, the amount of attempts and failures on the script. Russell Crowe originally rejected the movie because of the script, and it's just a process. And all the way through shooting, they were tweaking the script, and actors on Gladiator was saying, "Oh, I hate that line. We got to change that line." So we know we're never going to arrive. We just have to figure out how far do we need to get for a studio to be interested or a director to be interested. The takeaway from that meeting at the aforementioned studio lunch was, guys, keep working on the script. Come back to us when you either have some news on the Chinese potential financing and or a new script to read. But suffice to say that there's still interest there, and every no is what did you
one
say?
step
Every
closer to the yes.
One
Every
step
no.
closer to a yes. There you go. Hey, on other fronts, our other project, Messiah, we sent that script to a well-known director. He's done some high-profile films. He's actually out of Mexico, but spends half his time here in America. We waited a month or so for him to read the script, and he just got back to me, told me he loves the script. So that project may get more attention right now. We could look at what he'd be looking at to to come on board and help us start pitching that project to studios for distribution. So that's the Messiah project.
All right, awesome, Paul. Thanks for sharing that bit with us. And Paul, you have some other things that you're working on because you have you're part of a couple groups and you have your own company too. Is something that you were sharing with me earlier today.
Yeah. So another exciting development for me in the industry is I'm heading up a new, hopefully a new fund, film financing fund, entertainment financing fund. And I'm going to be presenting to a group of investors, a pretty large group of investors, about a week from now. And if that fund comes together, then that would obviously be a great benefit to Calculated and the other projects we're doing here at OneDoor Studios. It's not a OneDoor Studios fund, it's company agnostic, and we'll just find the best projects to invest in. And of course, I'm going to be inserting our projects as much as I can, not only because I believe in them, but because I think they're gonna look really good to all the investors.
Right.
So that's exciting.
And it gives us power negotiating distribution, our relationships with studios and major distributors around the world. The more content we have, more projects they help one another. So that's a great thing.
And interestingly, one of the guys who's partnering with me on that fund is flying into town and just happens to be meeting with the president of the aforementioned studio. So it just keeps coming back around.
Isn't this guy someone you met, the first guy, someone you met? Did you meet him on purpose or accidentally while surfing?
A little bit of both. He and I were executive producers on a smaller cause-based film, which is how I first met him. And then I realized that he had a house in the same Malibu community where I have my beach house. And so we became friends on the beach. And now we see each other almost every weekend and surf together or try to surf, being a little bit older in our surfing career now. John surfs too, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I haven't been out in a week.
A long time. Oh, long time for a server. Well, I wanted to just thank everybody for their ongoing patience in this process. It is not stagnant. It is moving forward, but it's being steered right now. We have to find the exact right fit for a distribution partner, and it just seems like a lot of things are lining up. A lot of relationships are converging in one location, and we hope it works out in that particular location. And Thomas, you have a couple things you wanted to mention to our investors about us moving forward and what we're going to do.
Yeah, I thought I'd mention another thing Paul was talking about before the call, was just all the work that we're putting into these companies, while still doing our absolute best to manage funds the right way. Not sure if we ever shared this in an update, but just this last year, I actually became the controller of OneDoor Studios. So I've been helping the guys with our bookkeeping and all that stuff. And I can just say, in doing this, I don't think I've ever worked with a group of guys who cares more about where our dollars are going, down to the penny, because we want to put every single dollar to its maximum use and benefit for these projects.
Yep.
So I just thought I'd mention that.
Which is why none of us on this call or office call are taking any of the money for anything. That's why we get all our funds from other projects and continue to work on this until we see this thing all the way through.
Yeah. And then the other thing, just really quickly wanted to mention, was obviously it's been a while since we've done a weekly video update. Stephen mentioned why that was. And the game plan moving forward, just so that you guys are aware, is we're going to try and do every single Friday updates. This Friday is when we're recording for OneDoor Studios, and then next week will be my stream, and then we'll trade off. So we think that'll be a nice schedule and something that you guys can expect just about every week.
And sometimes, I mean, there'll be videos sometimes, and there'll be textual sometimes. But our goal is to do every week an update on OneDoor Studios, or my stream will go out, whether it's a video like this or whether it's an email. So Thank you all for joining us today and hearing what's going on with OneDoor Studios. Thanks, Paul and John, for sharing everything that went on the last few weeks with you guys. And to our friends and investors, we will see you again on the next update. Ciao.
Awesome.